Before the event, the fight supervisor will coordinate with the promoter, the officials that have been assigned to the event, to ensure that all the logistics are in place. We'll coordinate with the officials to ensure that they're all ready and prepared for the travel to get to the event, to make sure that there aren't any issues that need to be addressed in getting all of the officials to the event. In addition to that, the supervisor will coordinate with either the commission or the promoter information on everything ranging from the hotel to the weigh-in, the location of the weigh-in, the times, things like that. So that way everything is prepared. And once we get to the point where we either have to travel to the event or we get there on site, that all of the issues that need to be addressed are already have been communicated, and that way there's less surprises once you get there.
Yeah.
We've got the 3 judges and the referee, and then the supervisor. So that will be the team of officials. Let's say, for example, if the fight is in another country, those that are representing the WBC for that title fight in that event are the officials, the judges, the referee, and the supervisor. So as the supervisor, you want to make sure that the team has everything they need to get there. The team has everything that they need in preparation for the fight, on fight night, that they're situated and they have what they need to be able to focus solely on their job and to effectively do their job, and then everything is in place to get them back home.
Yeah, so there's very close communication with the team.
Yeah, it's informing them of what they need to know in terms of logistics and things like that, and communicating with the promotion. That's where most of the communication will come from, because that's where the information is that we're going to need to pass on to the officials. The WBC office will appoint a supervisor for an event. Once that's communicated to the supervisor, as the supervisor waits for the packet to arrive, a lot of these communications can already begin to take place. I like to get as much of the paperwork prepared before even the weigh-in. As much of the information that we have available to us, I like to fill out the paperwork that the WBC requires for an event. There are life insurance forms that you can begin to prepare by putting the fighters' names, the logistics for the location of where the weigh-in or the event is taking place. There's also the supervisor's report and fact sheet that includes all kinds of information on the event, ranging from fighter-specific information, contacts for their representatives, and down to commission representatives, production, promoter. There's a lot of information that's required to be input into these supervisor reports, that much of that can be taken care of before even arriving at the weigh-in. And once arriving at the weigh-in, we'll meet with the respective fight camps. We'll take care of the insurance paperwork. We'll have the fighter bout agreements, and we'll coordinate the logistics of when we're going to do the weigh-in, when we're going to do the official glove selection, and when we're going to do the championship rules meetings. And something that's unique to the WBC, and one that's I mean, unanimously appreciated by the entire boxing community, is the fact that the undercard, not just the championship fight that gets life insurance, the entire undercard has life insurance on their respective bouts as well, if in the case, God forbid, something was to happen. So then there's also the element of going to each fight camp and getting information to with respect to the life insurance for the undercard. And once all the paperwork is taken care of, then we do the official weigh-in. We'll want to make sure that the scale that's being used is properly calibrated. You want to make sure that it's a fair and accurate scale. As the fighters get on, we make sure that we see what their weight is, and that way it is in line with the contract weight and the weight for that respective weight class. After that weigh-in, then we'll proceed to the glove selection, where we oversee the process of the fighter selecting their primary set of gloves, the number ones, and then their secondary set of gloves, which remain with the commission table and the WBC supervisor for that championship fight. So in that process, we'll first inspect the gloves to make sure there's no defects in the gloves, to make sure that the gloves are don't pose a threat to either fighter. And once the supervisor, along with the commission, deem the gloves acceptable, from that point we'll then allow the camps to come in, inspect the gloves, and then decide on what their number ones will be and what their number twos will be. Security of the gloves is paramount, so it'll be in our possession. And at the time of the event, once the fighters report and have had time to settle in, at that point their number ones will be assigned to them, and the number twos will remain ringside at the officials' table.
Mm-hmm. Are there? Do you also go with the fighters to review rules, or that's just the referees, or do you have something to do with the fighter and their team?
Yeah, one in the weigh-in, the official championship rules meeting. In some cases, you'll have the referee there. And in other cases, when the referee's not there, we have to really make sure that we thoroughly go through what championship rules are. Because in a lot of different jurisdictions, you'll have varying rules. And so when you apply the standard unified championship rules for a championship fight, it may be new to some of these camps or some of these fighters. So it's important to go down all these rules and then make sure that all camps are fully aware of what the rules are, they understand them, they have the opportunity to ask questions. And so that takes place at the weigh-in. You can also prepare them for what the hand wraps expectations are going to be. Then you coordinate, does one camp want to witness the hand wrap of the other? And in many cases, they'll want to have a representative in the other locker room to witness the hand wrap. And in those cases, then we'll coordinate times, and the supervisor will keep track of what the agreed upon time is, so that way at the event, they can then go and coordinate, okay, well, here's the time for fighter A to wrap hands, let me go grab the representative from fighter B's locker room. And so it's coordinating just the logistics of things like that. And that's at the weigh-ins rules meeting. The priority of WBC is fighter safety and fairness. And so the supervisor in that moment represents those interests on behalf of the WBC in that situation. So, for example, when it comes time to the hand wraps, as we bring in the representatives from the opposing corner to witness the hand wraps, and we've gone over what the expectations are for hand wraps, the supervisor will observe to ensure that they're complying with these expectations. to ensure that not only is the fighter's hand safe with the hand wrap, but also that it doesn't pose a risk to his opponent. And so from that safety aspect, the supervisor has to oversee to ensure that that's adhered to. And then also, there's a lot of times differing opinions from the corners. And so then the supervisor has to be able to manage complaints or disagreements in a manner that is in the best interest of health and safety. During the fight, we'll sit ringside next to the commission representative. And as the scorecards come in, the commission representative tallies the score on their sheet, and the supervisor, the WBC supervisor, enters the scores on our own score sheet. And one thing that I like to do in practice is every roughly 3 rounds, then we'll check each other's math and we'll make sure we're on the same page. So that way, once the fight is over, there isn't any scrambling if there's any differences in scores, or if somebody didn't, made an error or a mistake. So every 3 or 4 rounds, we'll be checking to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And it's kind of a dual control to ensure that everything is up to par, if you will.
Yeah.
I have had assignments where open scoring was accepted and was used for that bout, and it works very smooth. The WBC has a process in place to ensure that everybody is informed from the corners to production and the announcer as well. So then, by extension, then the crowd is aware as well. And I've seen it work very well, and it provides the transparency to keep fans informed and the fans watching on TV informed. It provides transparency without giving away, the dramatic ending at the end. So I think it checks all of the boxes when it comes to transparency, communication, while maintaining the dramatic conclusion of a fight that fans love so much. So I'm a big supporter of open scoring. The first thing is to have a good rapport with the commission, to be able to share your view of what it is that's happening and how you're assessing the situation, and being able to communicate with them. But keeping in mind that ultimately, when you're in someone else's jurisdiction, that it'll fall on them to make that final decision. So beyond giving our own assessment and sharing our input and our opinion, our main responsibility is to gather as much of the information as possible and detail that information to the head office, so that way they have all the information that they need to then carry any concerns forward. And for the sake of fairness, ensuring that both fighters have reasonable accommodations, because ultimately what you want is for them to get into the ring and feel like they're on a level playing field, and that not one didn't get something that the other one didn't get. And so as a supervisor, you have to assess what's around you and make sure, whether it's hand wraps, whether it's glove selection, whether it's rules, whether it's the conditions of the locker room, that you want it to be on even ground. So that way, when they get into the ring, they're focused on their opponent and they're focused on the bout, and there isn't any concerns about unfair treatment or anything like that. And I think that's where the most important job of the supervisor comes in.
Yeah. What happens?
Well, first thing I like to do is first make sure we're all on the same page. Somebody can just see where the scores are and say, okay, I know who, and then go into the ring. But I think that for me, the best thing is to make sure everything is finalized, make sure everyone is on the same page with respect to the WBC and the commission. And then from there, once it's finalized and the score cards are given to the announcer, then at that point, I'll take the shirt and I'll take the belt and I'll enter into the ring and try to stand in a way that doesn't give away, the outcome of the fight. And at that point, and one thing I do is I like to communicate to the camps, to the referee, what our protocol is when the winner is announced. That we'll be placing a shirt on the winner, and we'll be putting the belt on the winner as well. So that way the fighter isn't, dragged this way or that way, and everybody is aware of what the steps are at that exact moment. So it'll be once the fighter is announced, we present them with the T-shirt, and then we'll place the belt on them.
Yeah.
We coordinate with the promotion to finalize the invoice, whether it's collecting a check or whether it's ensuring that all the steps are in place for them to either wire it or pay with check, and then also making sure that the officials are paid their fees as well. And from that point, then we'll also coordinate any logistics that are needed for the officials' return back home. So we want to make sure that that all is taken care of and there isn't confusion in that process. And then as far as communicating the report to the office, it's good to summarize the weigh-in, any issues at the event, and basically put in as much information as possible, so that way the office can feel that they were at the event and they dealt with everything from small points to major issues that arose. Communication, coordination, documentation, and that's to prepare for an event. And
supervision?
And supervision, absolutely. When it comes time to the weigh-in portion, the event portion, that supervision, and at times decisions, and you have to be able to work with teams that have differing interests, right? Each corner wants the best for their fighter. Each corner is there to win the fight. And so whether it comes to rules or gloves or hand wraps or anything like that, they're looking out for their best interests, whereas we're looking out for fairness and an even playing field. And so it's about balancing all of that through just these relationships with these different people. So it's a relationship with the corners, with the fighters, with the promoter. At times it'll be with production, with commissions. And so it's about managing this entire relationship to ensure that this championship fight happens smoothly and in a manner that's fairest to the fighters and to the fans. And that's kind of in a nutshell of what the supervisor's main responsibilities are.